Okay, boys and girls. Hi, everybody. Uh, welcome to another episode of the Extra Credits Book Club podcast. I am a host, William Woodard, and with me is the other host.
Alex Green.
That's right. And we are finishing Terry Pratchett's Equal Rites book. Which,
did it.
Boy, is it good. It's really short, but
It was a good starting book for the year. It was a nice palate cleanser after the, I don't know, tome that was Jade War.
too long
Yeah,
for absolutely nothing to happen.
I know. I'm still mad about that.
Uh, uh, Me too. I'm I'm gonna take that to my grave.
Yeah, like a colossal disappointment.
However, this book is great.
Certainly not.
Even though it kind of, when you're about 3/4 of the way through the book, you kind of go, nothing's happened.
That's true.
Like, the whole conceit of the book is that this girl is trying to go to the unseen university in Ankh-Morpork so that she
Yeah,
can become a wizard, and she gets there in like the last hour of the book.
yeah. The
And
whole thing is just like a series of like lovely little diversions.
yeah, where our main character Esk, technically the main character, it's very clear that in this half of the book, Terry Pratchett realized that he liked Granny Weatherwax way more as a character. So
As
he
he
started
should.
focusing on her almost entirely.
Mm-hmm. I was so happy for that.
But this, but we can't even call it chapters. His books don't have chapters.
Well, they technically do, but there's no, like, they may as well start and stop mid sentence.
Yeah, I mean the actual physical book does not have chapters, but they are divvied out
Oh,
in
okay.
the audiobook.
Okay.
Um, which is why it seems like they stop and start at the beginning or in the middle of like a scene.
Yeah, because some are like 46 seconds long.
Yeah, and usually those ones are great because they're usually great punchlines.
Mm-hmm.
But this last we left Esk, she had gotten onto a barge looking for a toilet,
Yeah. And then
and
just like joins
yeah,
them.
just hung out. And she's still hanging out with this dude who is a Zune, I think. Not sure how you spell it because
Yeah.
it is an audiobook. There's a lot of names that I'm not sure how you spell, so you just kind of have to wing
No,
it.
I know. And it's like, it's always such a gamble because I need to know how things are spelled in order for them to make sense in my head. But I don't want to look up the character names in case get spoiled for something in the
Hmm.
books, which has happened a couple times. So I'm like, do I risk it to have the satisfaction of knowing how the name Q Tangle is spelled? Or do I just soldier through it so I don't ruin anything?
Yeah. Uh, so she's with this. I forget the guy's name, but he is a Zune, which is like a culture of people that put great emphasis on liars. Like their culture is impressed at the very notion that someone could say something that isn't true.
Yeah, because like they're genetically predisposed to telling the truth.
Yeah.
So it's like this like celebrated anomaly when someone can actually lie. But my favorite thing about that is like other groups of people like really don't like that they kind of laud this person as being a ceremonial liar, because like they're basically just conducting themselves in public the way anybody else in like a mercantile business
Yeah.
would do, or a politician would do. And they're like, why can't you just call him like a politician or something, like to make it more
Oh,
palatable
he's very
so they're
impressive.
not having their, yeah. And but he has his own like ceremonial liar's hat that he wears when he goes into port
Right.
and does all of his trading.
Yeah, and he goes into like a jeweler shop selling gems and stuff.
Yeah, something like that.
And he wants to buy some neat looking gems. And immediately Esk is like, "Oh, those aren't real." And it's just kind of like there's no real point to it. It's just kind of a fun little aversion or
Mm-hmm.
diversion, I guess, of Esk having knowledge that she shouldn't really have. And
Yeah,
everybody
and
being
like,
kind of like, Discworld is so weird because no one can be surprised by anything, and everyone's kind of put off by everything else. Like
yeah, and like,
no one really has time for anybody.
no, and nobody really has like Esk doesn't want to reveal that she's using like magical senses to kind of
Right.
discern whether or not these gemstones are real. And there seems to be this like agreement that magic is kind of frowned upon, or just not necessarily frowned upon, but like it's not, people aren't comfortable around it.
Right.
So like once he asks her like, how can you tell that they're fake, because he performs like an experiment and can like conclude that they're fake, and she makes up a lie about how she grew up next to a place where they like occurred naturally, and so it's easy for her to tell that like the light isn't moving through the rocks the same way as it would if it was real
Yeah.
or whatever. And then after that, she's like, oh, well, he's going to start watching me really closely now. So she thinks it's like time to start packing up and leaving, because she doesn't want them to know that she has magic or something like that.
Yeah, it's really weird in that clearly Terry just needed her to get going. Because there
Yeah.
was no real reason for her to be hanging out with this guy anyway. So he's like, alright, let's move it along. And then she
I
meets.
think,
Go ahead.
yeah. Oh, I just think it was just all in a way for her to like continue her journey in the right direction
Yeah.
towards the university. So it was like, how do we get her there?
Yeah. And she meets up with this caravan of. She finds out that there is a caravan going to Ankh-Morpork. So she goes up to this like caravan leader and she's like, "I'm going to Ankh-Morpork," and he's like, "Get real. You're just a little kid." He's like, "What do you even want to go
Yeah.
to that city for anyway?" Like, "I'm gonna find my fortune there," and he goes, "Please, please, take a hike." And then she just like ends up going anyway. I don't remember how she does it.
She basically goes up to this guy and he turns her away, and she's like, okay, well then where's the road? And he's like, it's that way. And
Oh
she
yeah,
takes off and just starts walking, and he's like, oh god. It's like he's thinking of all of like the dangers and bandits and like rabid animals or whatever that's
yeah,
waiting on the road, and he's like, get in here. Just very like sheer reluctance and guilt, which is, I think, how a lot of people end up helping Esk, because she's gonna do the thing anyways, and then the adults are like, "Oh, fine."
yeah,
Like, I like there's this one quote where it's like a hint was to Esk what a mosquito was to the average rhino. Like, she just does not take
yeah,
hints or accept rules, and she's learning very quickly that if she just decides that rules aren't applicable to her, the world will kind of just rearrange itself to make it so she can do what she wants anyways.
Yeah, and it's on this caravan trip that she meets Treadle, who is a wizard, an actual one, and his little
Yeah,
apprentice called Simon,
Simon.
who is a very pathetic,
Oh
kind of
boy.
weaselly, and he's got a stutter, and the stutter is acted out in the audiobook with such accuracy that it gave me hives.
Yeah,
It made me so
I
anxious.
know.
And like it
Yeah,
becomes a
yeah.
joke that every time Simon wanted to say something, everyone else would just like fill in the word that he was trying to say.
Yeah,
Which is kind of ableist, but hey, listen, this book was written in the 80s.
that's true.
So, be cool. Um, but this is also when Esk kind of realizes that her the magic that she's doing is completely on her whims, and she's kind of getting scared of it because
Yeah,
it's
she's
doing
like,
things
I'm
she
not
doesn't want
controlling
it to
this.
do.
Yeah. But one thing that was kind of cool when she realized she needed to leave the boat people, but the staff was back on the boat, she has this moment where she's like, well, all I need to do is imagine a world where the staff isn't on the boat, it's with me. And there's this whole kind of explanation about how if she had been properly trained, she would know that that's impossible and there's no way you could ever do that. Like the amount of things that would have to change in this universe and in other universes is so many to count. Like it's just, you would never even try to attempt it. But that one of the key ingredients of success is not knowing that the thing you're trying to do is impossible.
Yeah,
And so the staff just drops out of the air and into her hand. And I love that
yeah,
because that's really a metaphor for my life because all I do is research things all the time. And I'm like, oh, of course, there's no way I could do that. But then people who are just out there practicing chaos magic and being like delusional in the best possible way to be like, no, things just work out for me.
yeah.
And then they do. And it's like,
All you
it
gotta
could really
do
be that
is
easy.
read The Secret, boys and girls. Just read that.
Yeah.
just,
Yeah.
just
All you need to
don't be fat. It's that easy.
all you need to do is think of, but you can't think of anything bad because then only bad
Yeah, the
things.
bad stuff
Don't
happens to
think,
you.
you can't think fat thoughts because then you'll get fat. It's like, of all the powers that you could possibly have in the universe, you should probably just try to focus on being as rich and as thin as possible. Don't worry about the rest of the world. We don't need to help humanity. But also, if you have cancer, that's on you. And
Yeah,
if you can't
those are the
will that
bad
away,
thoughts.
yeah, you need to start cleansing your thoughts.
If you really want to get down to it, the fact that you have cancer, it's your, like, that's your fault. You gave it to
You were
yourself.
thinking
Those
cancerous
bad thoughts.
thoughts. It's on you.
Uh,
Never mind what happens if there's like two sets of people thinking opposite things. Like what if what you're thinking of is like I want everybody else to have cancer except for me. By the rules of The Secret, that would become reality. Like but that's not ever
that's also a good thought,
measured.
according to The Secret.
Well, that's true because you're looking out for number 1.
Yeah. It's altruistic in a very singular sense.
Fully. Yeah.
The charity of numero uno, baby.
My favorite thing, sorry, this is a total tangent, but my favorite thing about that book is all of the like testimonials and quotes from people who have like been benefited by The Secret are like feng shui therapist and holistic chiropractor, but it's like that's one person's title. Like and then it's just like money making expert, which is literally just a nepotism baby for sure.
Yeah. My
Positive thinking coach.
my dad gave me a trust fund of $200,000, and I turned that into $1 million by asking him how he did it.
And having him continue to put more money into my trust fund every month
It's
for several years.
that easy, folks.
I just had to think I would love to have a trust fund, and if that trust fund got me more money, and then it did. Secret.
Oh, really, the power of manifestation. Uh,
The
but
mind is such a powerful tool.
speaking of manifestation, uh, Esk keeps finding herself manifesting things that she doesn't particularly want,
Right.
or that are kind of dangerous and detrimental. Um, but she's talking with this Treadle guy. It is Treadle. It's not Treacle.
Treadle. No, it's Treadle. Because the other one is Q-Tangle
Yeah, Q-Tangle.
and Treadle.
Wizards in Discworld have the dumbest name.
It's really embarrassing for them.
And they're all pathetic nerds.
I know, and I really love the voices that she did for them.
Yeah, all of like the kind of English
Just
dudes.
windbags.
Yeah, the English dudes that belong to clubs that women aren't allowed in. They're like, oh yes, Reginald, have you seen the broadsheets this afternoon? Those kind of British guys.
Uh-huh.
Uh, but he is talking to Esk, and she's like, oh, well, I'm going to be a wizard. And he goes, oh, well, the only way you can become a wizard is by going to the Unseen University. She's like, yeah, that's where I'm going. Hello, duh. And he goes, wait, did you say you're a girl? That's impossible. There's been no female wizards. Not that there's anything wrong with witches, mind you. I hear it's a very respectable position for a woman. And then she, like, it's this great exchange of him just exposing himself as a terribly sexist, disgusting old man.
Mm-hmm.
While also trying to do that thing where he's like, I have nothing against women, it's just they're more suited for giving birth.
Yeah, women's things, you see. The miasma.
Yeah, there was a lot of UC.
Uh-huh.
It's all these things just. This is just the way things go, you see. And then Esk has like this bizarre fever dream where she like gazes into the abyss, and
Yeah.
it kind of gazes back.
That's right.
And that's where kind of Granny Weatherwax turns up and is like, "Oh, there you are, shoosh."
Yeah. I think her nightmare is like we find out that people who have access to magic have nightmares more often for whatever reason, because I guess like the shadow realms of unseen creatures are attracted to magic
Right.
in some capacity. And then her nightmare is like there's this big ass castle and she can't get in, and someone is laughing mockingly at her, but some other scary stuff happens, I think. But
Right.
she wakes up, Granny's there. And I love that Granny, anytime like Esk is either going off on her own, like they never acknowledge that she ran off and did something. It's just like Granny's just always nonplussed about like finding Esk, and cats are trying to get on my desk. Be gone. And it's just never phased at like being reunited. Like doesn't even say hello. It's just like it carries on as if no time has passed.
Yeah, like they were just down the street. And Esk kind of explains that Treadle was kind of a dickhead to her. And she was like, they said I can't get in to the university and I can't become a wizard. And Granny, who was like, you can't become a wizard. That's outrageous. The moment that she hears that this old windbag said no, she was like, well, that's it. We're going to go kick the fucking door down.
Yeah. Suddenly it's so important that Esk gets into this university and becomes a wizard.
Yeah. And they get, like, it's just kind of, they fly there, and as soon as they get there, like, Treadle and Simon turn up in the caravan. They're like, oh, where did you go?
Yeah. Oh, you were gone?
Yeah, we didn't know you left.
It's like both. Yeah. But it's like when they fly there, doesn't Esk like control like aren't there some like hijinks with the broomstick? Because Granny's broomstick is like old and faulty, like a shitty old car.
Yeah.
And like I don't really remember what was going on as they were flying there, but I
Uh,
feel like Esk was like controlling the broom somehow.
yeah. Granny's broom is kind of shitty, and she has a really hard time controlling it. So she kind of offers it to Esk, like, "Hey, can you fly this thing better?" And Esk
Right.
Esk flies it like she stole it, just like
Yeah, that's right.
just like burning rubber, tearing like in Ferris Bueller's Day Off when the fucking valets take the car,
Yeah.
like that. Uh, and Granny nearly shits herself, because Esk is
Right.
going absolutely buck wild on this thing, like diving straight for the ground and then pulling up at the last second.
Yeah. Very fast and furious.
But then they do get there, and I believe they try and work out. I think it like works out that Treadle invites her inside to like take a look.
Yeah, and then forgets immediately, basically.
Yeah,
And I think Granny is like, well, if you're gonna go make an idiot of yourself, like at least it's you living your life. You know where we live. Like I think they have like a little flat, and Granny is like thriving.
yeah. She
And
like
like,
posts
cause
up in the poor part of town, and
yeah,
she like within the first week that they're there, everybody knows who she is. And by like the
yeah, she's got
second week,
clients.
by the second week, the thieves guilds are all told to stay
Right.
away from her, and we get our
Yeah.
first Bill Nighy uh footnote where he
Mm-hmm.
explains the thieves guilds of Ankh-Morpork, which essentially just boils down to they're like a police force essentially.
Yeah.
They ensure that crimes happen in good standing.
Right. I also really liked Esk and Granny having a conversation about like the brothel next door. And
Oh
Esk
yeah.
is like, people should really like be considerate. There's that one woman and she has all those daughters, and people are coming all night. Like, don't they sleep? Like, people should just know that she's probably exhausted and like leave them alone. And Granny's thinking to herself, like, I'm probably going to have to discuss this with her at some point. But she also is kind of like, really? Like, she can't figure this out. She's like thinking back to all of the help Esk gave her with like
The goats and
birthing
stuff.
goats and shit. And she's like, she doesn't, it's just not clicking for her. That's
No.
okay.
And then Granny's just like, yeah, she probably is pretty tired, huh? Anyway.
Yeah. But then they do show up to the university. Granny basically drops her off at the door. Treadle's like, okay, yeah, you can come in with us. And then immediately forgets that he said that because, like, as soon as they're in the door, he's like, what are you doing here?
Yeah.
She's like,
Um
you invited me?
and they meet the chancellor, which is essentially the headmaster,
Yeah.
by the name of Qtangle, who is Dumbledore but sexist.
Yeah.
Uh and it's just a this whole sequence is a comedy of errors, not a comedy of errors, but it's a series of goofs of
Yeah.
Esk being shown into a room, and then a bunch of the wizards in that room going, "It can't be."
Yeah. But what does Simon do? I was really confused at that part where he, like, he has to do some type of like demonstration, I guess, to show like that he can join the university. And he does some crazy shit where like everyone in the great hall where they're at are like silenced. And then this like image of like the world appears and he like zooms in on the school, like makes some kind of map or some shit. I was so
It
beyond
was really confusing.
baffled.
Uh, but yeah, I think it is just kind of like a demonstration of sorts. I have to admit, The narrator of this book is so soothing, and
Yeah.
that it is the easiest thing in the world to completely zone out. Like
Yeah. It's
there
just
there's like a missing time. I am missing time in this book because I go
yeah.
from her being shown in to suddenly they're in the library and Simon's unconscious. I'm like, what's happening?
Basically, okay, so Esk decides that she's going to really show all the wizards like why she belongs there,
That's
and
right.
she just goes, watch this, and then absolutely fucks it all up.
Yeah,
We don't
nothing
really know what
happens.
she does, but we like are she says watch this, and then we get like cut away to Granny, and Granny I think is kind of working a side way for Esk to get into the school in case trying to get in as a student doesn't work out for her. So she kind of gets in with like the laundry women and
Oh yeah.
says she's gonna like tell her fortune, but really she starts like borrowing the university because she finds out that it has a personality.
Yeah,
So she
old
can
buildings have
like
personalities.
yeah, so she can like join consciousness with the building to see if she can find Esk, and like the washerwoman like head lady is like, do you see anything in there? And um Granny's like, oh right, and comes back to her body, and she's like, I kind of liked having windows, and then realizes that Esk is like on her way out running from the school, so she runs out to meet her. But basically her fortune that she gives this lady is like, oh, you're gonna meet a young girl, and you're gonna definitely hire her as a servant, and she's gonna be great to help clean the university, and she'll even bring her own broom because Esk has been disguising her staff as a broomstick.
Mhm.
And the washerwoman is like, oh, that's so great. And then wouldn't you know, she meets Esk like 15 minutes later when she comes running out crying from the university, and Granny
Yeah.
brings her like around back more or less.
Yeah, and Esk basically says like they just I tried to show them magic, nothing happened, and all they did was give me a sweet. And Granny was
Oh
like,
yeah, that's right.
"What kind was it?" She was like,
Oh yeah.
it was a
It
toffee."
was like a toffee. Yeah.
Yeah, and she was like, "Did you eat it already?" And she goes, "Yeah." And then
It's
she
like, well,
was
it's not
like,
that bad of a day then. You got a candy.
"Yeah, you got a sweet out of it." And I think Granny kind of like complains that it wasn't a peppermint.
Yeah.
And she was
Which is
like,
such an old lady thing to
yeah, oh,
do.
you want me to go back in and get you one? Although they make it seem like Granny isn't as old as she would like to be.
Well, Granny is like upset that she hasn't really been able to embrace the true like branding of a
Yeah,
witch. Like
the real
she still
hag
has all
look.
her teeth. She can't grow warts to save her life. It's
She's
just
got a
like
nice looking
some
nose.
yeah, it's just like someone just have all the luck. But she could be younger than she pretends to be. Like no one would ever know though, because she wears her whole wardrobe
Yeah, all of it
at
at once.
once. Hmm.
Um, and this is another moment where I completely zone out. Like between her chatting with the laundry people, and then I think she kind of like meets up with Simon, who's in the actual library itself, which is a recurring setting these books.
Yeah. She Esk starts working as a servant, and she's cleaning a room one day, like kind of adjacent to one of the big like lecture halls, I think.
Hmm.
And then Simon comes in with a bunch of like senior wizards and starts addressing them and like basically giving a lecture. And I have no fucking clue what he's saying. Nobody, but for whatever reason, like there's this idea around the university that Simon can just really articulate complex magical theory and distill it into like words that make sense to people. But it seems like it only makes sense to people in the moment where he's explaining it. And then as soon as he's done explaining it,
Yeah.
they all they feel like they've learned something and their like perspectives are like irrevocably changed. But if asked to recall how he had worded something specific, they have no idea how to phrase
Right.
it. So my guess is like the lecture he's giving is somehow doing that for the people in the room.
Yeah, and magic is so weird in Discworld because it can like operate the way it does in a lot of fantasy novels. Like the way Esk kind of uses it is pretty standard, but a lot of
Mm-hmm.
like the actual wizards use magic really weird.
Yeah.
Like they have to like spells can just get lodged in their head and not come out. In
Oh, right.
Rincewind, the wizard in the couple of the books, he has a very nasty spell like lodged in there, and he does whatever he
Mm.
can to keep it there so that he never has to utter it because he doesn't know what it does. He just knows it's bad.
Oh. Oh, that's kind of cool. I kind of like that they take on a life of their own. And it seems like the books in the library are really similar to that. But
Yeah.
before Esk sees, because Esk decides that she needs to learn how to read. So she asks if she can start cleaning the library. But before she does that, when she's watching Simon like deliver this lecture to people, she notices these little creatures, these little like shadow creatures from her nightmares are there watching Simon,
Mhm.
and she feels like she's the only person who can see them because nobody else is reacting to it.
Right.
So she's kind of weirded out by that. And after that, she realizes that she needs to start learning how to read. But her plan is instead of getting somebody to teach her, she's just going to go to the library and assume that one of the books will explain how all of the other ones work.
Yeah.
But on her way to the library, Granny is like really just in her fucking bag at this point, like waiting for her in the hallway, kind of disguised. And she's asking about how Esk is doing. And Granny's like, yeah, like I'm so busy. I might need to take on like an apprentice or something or just like an assistant. And Esk is so personally betrayed by that. She's like, well, what about me? And Granny's like, well,
You're
I mean, you're
becoming a
doing your own
wizard.
thing now and I'm busy. And she walks away and Esk notices that she has like a new red silk lining to her cape.
Oh yeah.
And I love it. Granny's really like, I think Granny is like freed of the small town. It's like when a small town person moves to the city and decides they're going to be a whole new
Yeah.
person. But Granny doesn't really realize or plan to do that, but she just kind of feels a little freer.
Yeah. It's her new year, new Granny Weatherwax.
Yeah, I love to see it.
And like she spent all that time in Badass dealing with this tiny town of people who like it was just dealing with ailments, births. She was like the midwife.
Yeah.
And now she's in Ankh-Morpork and people are like coming to her with real witch shit and she's like, "Oh, finally I'm being recognized for my genius."
Yeah.
Uh but in the library where the librarian is a single orangutan
Right.
that I don't think has a
No, because it honestly took me until the end of the book to realize that it was an orangutan and not like a gnome or something. I was so deeply confused. I was like, why is it not talking? Why is it only communicating via sound?
yeah, just ook,
What's the deal here?
ook.
Yeah.
Uh but this is where it gets hazy. Because Simon goes to the library for some reason. Esk
Well, he
is
just loves books
yeah, but he's in there for some reason. Esk is also in there for some reason.
to
And
clean.
uh he is showing off question mark or just going about his business. I can't really
I think
remember.
he's kind of helping Esk out. And Esk is kind of realizing that she maybe has a bit of a crush on him.
Hmm.
And
Yes,
he's
because she
basically
says he
explaining,
could be handsome, even
yeah,
though she has no real concept of what that means.
yeah, exactly. Although he's like described earlier as, I think his eyes are described as looking like raw eggs in warm water, which I thought was so fucking funny. I
It's
was
one
like,
of the
that is
most
such a
disgusting ways to describe eyes.
I know, but it's so vivid. Like you can picture just the incessant hay fever face of somebody when you
Yeah,
hear that described. But
just
Simon's kind
perpetually
of teaching,
watery eyes.
yeah, that you can't just open any book. It feels very like the restricted section in Hogwarts, like where if
Yeah,
you
books are on
aren't
chains.
prepared, yeah, like if you open a book and you're not prepared to deal with the consequence of opening that book, bad things are going to happen for you.
Which is
Um,
exactly what happened to Rincewind. He opened a book he wasn't supposed to, and a spell that was in the book shot into his head, and that's how it got stuck
it's like
there.
it's like in the Addams Family where they have to know what book to open, and instead they open that fucking hurricane
Oh
book.
yeah, I thought that was dumb. That doesn't make any sense.
No.
Why?
I think the
They're
book that
not.
they open,
They're not magic.
it, I know, but and I think the book they open to like isn't even really a hurricane book, but I can't remember what it was. But anyways, that's
It was
neither here
probably a
nor there.
visual gag, like they opened the Tempest or something.
I think that's what it was.
Makes no sense.
Anywho, no, but Simon is explaining this to her, and Esk is like horrified. She's like, "What do you mean bad things could come from reading a book? I was told nothing bad could come of this by you, in fact." And Simon's trying to explain some shit, and then like Esk starts seeing the little nightmare creatures, I think,
Hmm.
and the staff takes on a mind of its own and wants to murder Simon
Yeah,
and
it gives
hits
him
him
a clobber.
really hard in the head. Yeah. And then all of a sudden he's unconscious. A bunch of book stacks are overturned. And who knows
Well,
what happened? Because I don't.
I think what happened was the he was going to start showing Esk books, and the staff got scared that he was going to show her bad
Oh,
books, so it bonked him, and the ensuing bonk kind of made magic go a little screwy, and then things just started
right.
flying off shelves, and books that
Hmm.
probably shouldn't be opened or opening, and it all goes wonky, and the orangutan librarian is just kind of like ducks behind his desk and starts eating a banana.
Right.
Because this happens all the time. In the first book I read, and like the little excerpts I read of another book, anytime anything bad happens in the library, the orangutan just ducks behind the desk and waits it out.
I mean, what else can you do in that situation?
Yeah. And then Esk like joins him in the like they go to the astral plane or something, the dungeon dimensions. It's really confusing, and it doesn't help that her voice was so soothing.
I was like half asleep in the best possible way. But basically, Simon is in like a hospital bed, but I don't think that's right. I think I just assumed he was. I think he might actually still be in the life. No, no, all the wizards come in and they're like, the orangutan leads Esk away. Esk goes to find Granny. The wizards are like, oh, let's get this cleaned up. Let's put him in a hospital bed. So they do that. And Granny realizes, like, Granny and Esk look to at Simon, go to see Simon,
Right.
and he's unconscious. And Granny's like, "Oh, he's not home in his body right now.
Mm,
Um,
hmm.
I've never known a wizard to borrow before." And Esk says, like reveals that she hit him with the staff, so maybe that's what's caused him to like vacate his body.
Yeah.
And then Esk joins him, or no, they decide that they want to go. Right. um they're like, we have to go tell Q Tangle, or like, she's like, who's in charge here? And Esk is like, oh, it's this like headmaster, archmage, minister, magister, whatever.
Right.
And Granny's like, great, where are they? She's like, the Great Hall, but women can't go in there. And Granny's like, what the fuck did you just say to me? And Esk is like, sorry, like force of habit. Granny wants to go to this Great Hall where all of the wizard dudes are eating or whatever, and she wants to essentially kick the door open and stomp across the room, but she fucks it up and like twists her ankle as she is opening the door. I think she like kicks something or trips over something, so she's like doing a kind of like limp hobble thing, but she tries to do it with as much dignity as possible. And there's this little like assistant wizard dude who runs over to them, be like, no, ladies can't be in here, and is having like a small meltdown about it. And the way that the narrator made him sound so like administery and like pathetic was really funny to me.
All of the wizards sound really pathetic.
Yeah. But I think this is where
I think
like,
this
Granny
is where
goes to talk to Q-Tangle.
she yells
into,
at
like,
all
a
of
wizard
them.
Fight.
And she's like, you have a boy who's like trapped in some elsewhere dimension, and you guys all know how this shit works, and you're all sitting here eating dinner like a bunch of idiots. And they're like, oh, well, they do that thing where they're like kicking at the dirt. Like, well, I mean, we would, but it's just, I don't know. It's pretty scary. Like, they're all a bunch of cowards.
Yeah. And, like, Granny and Q-Tangle basically, get into, like, a wizard's fight where they're, like, shape-shifting a bunch. Like, it reminded me of in, like, Sandman.
Yeah.
When Dream and Lucifer were describing how the things they were creating were going to kill or maim the thing that the other person was embodying. It was literally that. Like, Q-Tangle turns into a snake, and Granny turns into a wicker basket to catch the snake. And
Terry Pratchett and Neil Gaiman were best of friends.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's cool.
Like, inseparably good friends.
Cute.
This whole section of the book was such a blur to me, because now I remember that, but then my next memory is Esk in like the astral plane, and then Q-Tangle and Granny are on a boat having some sweet sexual tension.
Yeah, basically Esk, when she sees that Granny and Q-Tangle are having their wizards fight, all of the little nightmare creatures are coming in, and she's trying to get their attention, but they're so wrapped up in their like death fight that I don't know how she manages to leave this dimension and go into whatever dimension Simon is in. She's looking for Simon in the astral planes and ends up in the dungeon dimension with Simon. He's got a glass pyramid. He is speaking with the voice of these shadow creatures.
There's even like a moment where she's like high above the Discworld. Like, she's looking down at the Discworld. She's like, it was like when I was borrowing with the eagle, but way higher up. And then she goes even higher and sees the great Atuin. And then she considers borrowing the great turtle. And I was like, don't do that.
There's no fucking way.
Even if you could, like, this great celestial being, if you see through its eyes, it will, because they were like, oh, if you could see the eye line of the great tween, you could see to the end of the universe. Like, I don't know if that's something meant for the eyes of mere mortals.
No,
And
I'm
she
good.
talks herself out of it. Thankfully,
She
she's like,
does.
"No, that's not a
Yeah.
great idea."
Yeah. All I remember from her time in the dungeon dimension with Simon is that all the animals are really fucked up looking. And Simon is about to be kind of taken over by these creatures. And that's about all I know. But the important thing is that after Granny and Q Tangle have their fight, they're having like a nice little debrief about it where they're sitting outside and like smoking cigarettes.
Yeah,
And Granny tells Q Tangle everything about Ask, why she's there, what her powers have been manifesting as, and tells him about the staff that Esk threw into the river after it bonked Simon because she got scared.
oh yeah,
And the two of them decide that they're gonna go look for it in a river that's flooding and like rain is about to start pouring down torrentially, but they just decide to do it anyways.
yeah. It's also worth noting that Ankh-Morpork is also like endlessly beset by disaster.
Oh yeah.
In the book The Color of Magic, it opens with the entire city on fire. And the way it's described is like this is not the first time this has happened.
Oh no.
It like the kind of it's described with an attitude of like even the citizens are used to this kind of bullshit. Like they're
Mm-hmm.
just like, oh god, the tannery fucking exploded again. Uh, but yeah, like they get onto this boat and they look around for the staff. They eventually get it, but they also kind of just sit there and bicker for a while. But the bickering, it's I don't know how Terry Pratchett did this, but he had them bicker and they bicker for so long that you don't notice that it turns into flirting,
Yeah,
which is that's how it really is.
I know. And there's moments where it's like we're mostly hearing it from Q Tangle's perspective, where his inner monologue is like, oh, he's thinking about the fact that his life has just gotten totally out of his hands and away from him. Now he's on this boat with what he could only describe as a woman. And then he
Yeah.
kind of trails off. He's like, a fine figure of a woman.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh boy. And then I think there's there's this one quote that's like, there was something about the way she used the tattered broomstick to like scull across the water or something that troubled long forgotten bits of Q Tangle's subconscious.
Yeah.
And I really liked that.
There's
But
also a
they're just
quote.
on this like,
There was a quote we I think skipped over because I think it was when either it was when Simon got bonked and like magic started going ape shit because it was described in the book and the end of the description paragraph said that it was enough for to make Steven Spielberg reach for his copyright
right,
lawyer.
right.
And
I liked
I
that.
was like, God, Harry, you gotta chill with the meta. Like, that was too meta.
That's true.
This is a fantasy book. You can't be bringing up Steven Spielberg.
I know.
But
He
it made me
did.
laugh.
And it was fun. Yeah.
Uh, this is also when Q Tangle, when they're sitting on the boat, he's sitting there grumping with a cigarette, and he says, "I don't like the ocean. It ought to be paved over." That made me laugh.
Yeah. I also liked when he said he gets seasick on damp grass. I was like,
Yeah,
same, honestly.
that's a very low tolerance.
Yeah. But they find the staff in the water and the water it's frozen. And they're trying to think of a way to get it out. And Q Tangle's like, if you put your hand in that water, your fingers are gonna snap off like carrots.
Yeah.
And I think they end up getting it out of the water because Granny just scolds it. She's like, "How dare you, you lazy piece of shit. What, you're just going to give up because she throws you into the river? She's a kid. Everything gets thrown out by kids. You
Yeah.
have a fucking duty, you piece of shit." And I think that's what gets it out of the water. She just like
Yeah, it just
shames
kind of
it.
like
Yeah, but then they get on the broomstick together to go back to the university, I think.
yeah. And Q-Tangle holds on to Granny in a most unsavory way, and she scolds him for it. She's like, "Would you mind with your hands?" And he's like, "Oh
Yeah.
yes, terribly sorry." And he moves them, and then she goes, "Well, hey, hold on a minute, put them back."
Yeah.
Oh, it's
Just
great.
fraught with sexual tension.
It's great. I don't care if Esk ever comes back. Keep the book with them.
I know. This was like my favorite part of the book was like their little boat cruise and broomstick ride.
Um, and they get him back somehow. It's so disrespectful to not have any of the details. But
Well, for me it was like this was around 11:45, which is past my bedtime, and I was getting ready to harvest my blue rose crops in Stardew and make a fucking killing. Oh my god. But there's just things happened
yeah,
at the
like
end.
Esk, I think, decides not to go to the school.
Oh, okay. So Granny and Q-Tangle, they get back to the university. They reunite with Treadle and the students.
Yeah.
They find out the university is afraid of thunderstorms. Granny's really taking charge here, by the way.
Yeah.
Q-Tangle's like deferring to her at this point, and like just trying to like I think he's aware that he's like a sexist piece of shit on some level, so he's trying to be more inclusive and like impress Granny, who he is like really falling for at this point. So they get to the library, they put the staff over Esk's sleeping body, who can then access it in the dungeon dimension.
Right.
Then she finds out that, like, okay, so these nightmare creatures are attracted to people performing magic intentionally. So she's like, well, we have to not do magic to do magic. And her and Simon have this, like,
That's right.
just super nerdy tete-a-tete about doing magic versus not doing magic to do magic. And Simon really wants to ponder this and have time to just really sink his teeth into it and unpack it. And they manage to get out of this dimension, and Q-Tangle decides he's going to let Esk into the university, and her and Simon start talking and planning about this kind of like research organization they're going to put together at the school to like look into doing magic by not doing magic. It's all very like wordplay, feels very like on brand with how magic functions in this world.
Yeah.
But the end is essentially Granny and Q-Tangle like having a little tea party date.
Yeah.
And he's talking to her about whether or not she would be interested in teaching there if they decide to take on more like girls, basically.
Yeah.
I think.
And she wants a chair. Like a big fancy one. And he's like, I mean, there probably is a chair, but okay. And I believe the book ends with Granny watching the wizard from the very beginning having reincarnated as a tree and then into an ant.
An ant. Oh, right. Oh, he was a tree first?
Yeah, wasn't he that tree that she was talking to?
Oh, I thought that was another wizard. But I don't know why I would think that. It would make way more sense if it was like the wizard from the book who was like desperately trying to come back. I just never made that connection.
Yeah, he's working extra hard, so he's an ant now.
Right.
And he's making a little pyramid out of sugar cubes.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And Q-Tangle was basically like, yeah, I haven't had the heart to get rid of them. They all seem to enjoy their pyramid making so much.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the end of the book.
And then the end of the book has really loud, dramatic music
Yeah,
that
unfitting.
terrified me.
It was
I was like,
unfitting
oh
for the
my
rest
God.
of the book. Like,
It was so scary.
but anyway, that's Equal Rites, boys and girls.
Yeah, read it. If you, like me, put off reading Discworld for a really long time because the cover art looked like a little dated and childish, just fucking do it because I unfairly judged this series and
real
Terry
good.
Pratchett. Like, I can't believe I've never read anything by him before, but I'm glad I'm doing it now.
Usually people read Good Omens.
Yeah, I haven't read anything by him whatsoever.
I mean, I haven't read Good Omens. Oh, the
Well, I mean, I
TV
have now.
series.
Oh yeah, I always meant to watch that, but then I was like, "Ooh, I want to read the book first," and then neither of those things happened, which
Fair.
is like a lot of my relationship with media in my adult years.
Well, hey, what do you say we select a new book?
I'm ready. I'm excited because this is gonna be just like a year of bangers. So
Yeah.
I know that we just can't go wrong.
It's true. I mean, we could go wrong with just a real misguided selection. However,
Well, true.
we've got
I don't feel like this is misguided.
no. It should be noted though that while we are selecting a new book tonight, we are taking a break throughout February, so we won't be able to get to it until the 1st or the 8th of next month. Who knows? Basically,
It's my fault.
we'll see you in March, is what I'm
Yeah.
getting at. But we are gonna pick it. Let's see what we've got. We've got a lot of returning ones from last time. We've got Sabriel by Garth Nix. Cold as Hell, the Demon Hunter Arthur Morgan book by Retzi Bruno and Jamie Castle. We've got The Hollow King, Warhammer Age of Sigmar book by John French. A Song for Arbonne by Guy Gabriel Kay. And the new edition is Darkness Outside Us by James Fohey?
Gaze in space.
Gaze in Space. Anyway,
I'd be so happy with any of these.
yeah, I'm good for all these. So let's give it a spin. Ooh, Darkness Outside Us. It landed right on the
Gaze in
line.
space?
Yeah, Gaze in Space. Hey, man, come on. We just
was
put that
almost
book on there.
Sabriel.
We just put it on there. Give the others a chance, man.
I know. You know what though? It's nice because we know that we'll get to these ones eventually. Like
Maybe. Not if it keeps acting like this.
but no, we will.
I'm not mad about this book, but I am mad that there's something about when something gets added to a list and then that like a random list and that new thing
Yeah.
gets picked first and it's like, hey man, no one likes someone who cuts in line. Okay?
I know.
But it's fine.
I mean, yeah.
I listened to a preview and the narrator is not super obnoxious, so that's good.
That's good. I think I'm gonna go hard copy for this one again. I like to mix it up.
Sure.
To me, just really living on the edge.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's it. That's all we got. Got a new book, Gaze in Space.
I'm excited.
Even though it cut in line.
I know. I mean, we could just like rule a god wheel of fate and decide to read Sabriel instead. It feels like cheating though.
Yeah, it does. But we'll be back in what's next month? March? April.
Yeah. Isn't that weird?
March?
No, March. It's February now.
Yeah, we'll be back in March with the first episode of The Darkness Outside Us, not Inside. The Darkness
No,
Inside Us.
That's a different book.
Yeah, The Darkness Inside Us is a romance about the early 2000s scene kids.
Yeah, just edge lords in space would be the darkness inside of us. I actually would read that.
That sounds like a really bad fun book. All right,
Yeah.
kids. Thanks for watching. And we'll see you next month. Okay. Bye everybody.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Farewell.